Hey guys, welcome to our Bootstrap tutorial. In this video, we shall build a website from scratch using Bootstrap, HTML and CSS. And we shall make this website mobile responsive, which means we shall build a different display for a mobile phone and a different display for when our website is displayed on a laptop or a tablet or a television screen. And I have to mention, you need to have the basics of HTML, CSS and Bootstrap before following along properly in this video. But if you don't have basic knowledge in HTML, CSS or Bootstrap, I would provide links in the description to those courses. So let's get straight to building our website. I'm in my VS Code now. I have created a folder for myself. The name of the folder is Boot Project on my desktop. So here's my folder. I have two subfolders in my folder already. The CSS subfolder where I'll put my CSS file, and the image subfolder where I have my images stored. I have two images there. So let's go back to our VS Code. In my VS Code, I open this folder by coming to File, clicking Open Folder, going to my desktop directory and selecting Boot Project. That's how I got here in VS Code. Okay, so right here, I'm going to create my index.html file. Index.html. And I'm going to create my index.css file in my CSS subfolder. Let's say index.css. And that's that. So the next thing I'll do is to go to the Bootstrap website, grab the starter template and paste it here in our index.html file. So I'll go to getbootstrap.com, and over there I'll scroll down, I'll copy the starter template and I'll paste it here. Get rid of this comment, and I'll change the title of the website to Boot Project, Bootstrap Project, and I'll get rid of this hello world right there. I'll save this. So I'll go grab Poppins from the Google Fonts API, fonts.google.com, because I want to use that font family. I'll search for Poppins. I'll grab this and I would select regular 400. So I would view my selected families there, and I would grab this link here, go over to my index.html file. In the head tag, I would paste that link, and I would link my CSS file now. I would go to the CSS folder and the CSS file, and I'll set a type attribute which will be set to text/CSS. I would save that. So I would come back here, grab this link here, and I'll go to the CSS file, throw in a wildcard, and I'll paste that link there, and I would set margin in this wildcard to 0, and I'll set padding to 0. Don't forget the semicolon there. So that's that. So let's go ahead and run a H1 test on our website to see if everything is fine. Okay, I'm going to be using the live server in this video. So click on open with live server there, copy this and paste it on my Google Chrome because I don't want to use Internet Explorer. So I would paste this right there. As you can see, test came out perfect with no margin, no padding, and a font family is popping. So let's get rid of this so we can start building our website. Let's go to the Bootstrap website and let's grab a navbar right there, because that's the first thing we are going to have on our website, a navbar. Let's grab this. Before we paste that, we are going to have a section with an ID set to nav section, and we are going to set a display class right there. The display class we are going to set is to make sure this does not, what we are designing currently is only for a laptop screen and it's not going to be displayed on a mobile phone screen. So we are going to come over here in display property, scroll down, and we are going to select this class, hidden only on access. So this is it right there. So we're going to paste that. So in our section, well, let's go back to grab the navbar again because we already copied and pasted something. So let's grab this. This was the navbar we grabbed. So we paste that. The first thing we have to use the MLLG auto to shift these items over here. Initially the items were here. MLLG auto will shift them to the side. So let's get rid of the background color of light there by removing BG light, and let's just remove Navbar there and type in logo. If you have an image, you can place an image here with the image tag as your logo. So let's see what we have currently. We have logo and we have all our items here, and this looks good so far. So let's go ahead to style our navbar. So I'll do that in my index.css file. I would say nav section, and I would pass in the background color of, I'd say 32, and I'll say 1A 4A. I'll save that. If I go back to my browser, you see I have this color. So the next thing we'll do is to make all this text here appear in a white format. So let's go back to our HTML file, and let's pass in a class here of text white, and over here also text white. For the links, text white, also text white here, text white there. As you can see, our navbar is looking very okay. So let's toggle our website to a mobile phone screen to see what we have. And if you see, nothing is showing up, and that's because we use the display property here to hide everything here from a mobile phone screen. So let's create a navbar for our mobile phone screen. Let's copy what we have here and let's paste it here. Now we are going to change this class to this. Let's go to the Bootstrap website. Let's go to the display section, and let's grab a class that will display an object only on the mobile phone screen, and that's this, visible only on XS. So let's copy this. Always remember to take out the dot sign when you are pasting. Let's go back to our browser. As you can see, we have this navbar showing on a mobile phone screen. So when we toggle this, you see it comes out cool. So let's get rid of this text here that says logo, because I don't want that. So you see we have nothing showing up there. Now I want to style this toggler here to look not very conventional, and the way I'm going to do that is to come here. This is the toggler class here, the span tag here. We are going to set a BG of white, and let's look at that. Now this is how I want the toggler to look, very squared out like this. So let's go back to our laptop screen display and let's see what we have. As you can see, this is what we have when our website is displayed on a laptop screen, and this is what we have when it is displayed on a mobile phone screen. That looks good. So let's go ahead to create other sections of the website. So the next section we are going to create here is the banner section. And what do? We come down here, we create a new section, and we give it an ID of banner section. Now let's give it a class also, a display property class. Now let's come up here. This is the class that hides the display from a mobile phone screen. Let's paste it in here. So whatever we design here will be for a laptop screen only. So let's create a container. And this is how to create a container in Bootstrap. We all know that. Let's create a row which has 12 columns in the container. Now let's make use of 6 columns. Like so. Call MD6. Now in our 6 columns, we are going to have a H1 tag. Our H1 tag will say, "Welcome to Dawn's Fashion. We clothe you affordably." Now let's have a P tag under our H tag. Now let's say, so we just copied and pasted this. Dawn's Fashion House is an African fashion house, blah blah blah, all of that. To learn more about the Dawn's Fashion House, let's create a button that's going to say click here. So that button is going to be created outside the P tag. So let's come here and let's create a button and say click here. So that's all for our first 6 columns. So our second 6 columns, still inside the row, we are going to create another div tag that will have the second 6 columns, and that will be all for this row because each row has 12 columns. So inside this column we are going to have an image tag that will have the source attributes set to the image folder, and I'm going to use the first.png image. Now let's close that. Let's go to our browser. Let's see what we have. So this is what we have. So let's style this and let's make this look better. So to do that, we are going to head over to CSS. So to style that, let's head over to CSS and let's call the banner section. The first thing we are going to set in the banner section is a height. So we are going to say 100 VH for the height, a background color, which is what we used in the nav section, and we are going to have a color of white, and that's that for this selector. So let's go. This is what we have. Now the image blends with the background. So we have an issue here. This logo here is supposed to stay on the same line with welcome to Don's Fashion. So what are we going to do? Let's go over to our index.html file. Let's scroll up to the nav section, and in the nav section here we are going to make use of inline CSS to style that. So let's pass in the style attribute, and let's say margin left set to 100 pixels. So we are going to set that to 100 pixels, and let's save that. So let's go back to our page to see what we have. We have this looks better. So the next selector in our banner section will be the H1 tag. So we are going to say banner section H1. So our H1 tag will have a margin property with 150 px set for the top, 0 pixels for the right, 0 pixels for the bottom, and 0 pixels for the left. So let's see what we have. This is beginning to look better. So the next item to style here will be the P tag. We are going to say banner section and P right there, and we are going to pass in a margin property for the P tag also. So the margin property will take 30 pixels for the top, 0 pixels for the right, 20 pixels for the bottom, and 0 pixels for the left. So let's save that. Let's see what we have. This looks better. We have some space between this P tag here and this H1 tag. So finally, for this section, we are going to style the button tag right there. So to style the button tag, it's still banner section button, and we pass in a height for the button there, a height of 60 pixels, and we are going to pass in a width for the button tag of 160 pixels, and a background color set to, let's set something close to what we have. Let's say 301, and let's pass in D29 right there. So let's save that. We are going to pass in a color of white, and border, the border property set to none. Now let's pass in the border radius to have those curves at the edges there. Border radius set to 8 pixels. Let's save this and let's see what we have. So let's come over here to style this image. Let's push this image away from this section a little bit. So let's go back and let's say banner section img, and let's pass in a margin property. Let's pass in 0 for the top, 0 for the right, 0 for the bottom, and 120 pixels for the left. And this is what we have. This looks better. Now before I proceed, some of us may be asking, how did I get this image to look like this? How did I get this image to blend into this background very well? And that's because I removed the background properties from the image. And how did I do that? I did that using Figma. So you can use Figma to do that. So this is my Figma account right here. Figma is free, by the way, and you can remove the background of an image using a plugin known as Remove BG in Figma. First of all, go to the remove.bg site, which is this, remove.bg. Create an account for free. When you create an account for free, you come to Figma, open up your project. Now this is the image I used. Let me get rid of this image, and let's go to Unsplash. That's where I got the image I'm using. Let's download some free images right there. Let's say people. Let's say we want to use this image. Right click and save image. So you have that. So let's say I want to remove the background from that image. I'll just drag the image into Figma like this. So when you right click on the image, go to plugins, select remove BG. It's a plugin I installed on my Figma. So when you select remove BG, you click on run. If you have not set your API key, the run is not going to be effective. So you have to set the API key first. Let's click on set API key. You see, this is my API key. So it says go to the remove.bg website and create a free account. You will need to confirm the email. After that, you can find your API key here. So when you do that on your desktop or on your laptop or on your tablets, click on this link to get your API key. Then you save that. So when you click on plugins, go to remove BG, click on run. Now, as you can see, the background of the image has been removed, and some of the persons there actually were removed alongside the background. That's not cool. So you can actually use this image and it's going to be transparent. So all you need to do to export this image from Figma is to click on this bar here that has the name of the photo. Then you come over here to the bottom right, click on this plus sign in front of export. When you click on that plus sign, you would export it as a .png file. So you click on export, and that photo is going to have a transparent background. So when I put it on a website, it's going to look like this. And finally, I want to format this image so that this straight line here won't just appear like that, because it doesn't really blend with the straight line there. So let's have something circular. I would go to my index.html file. I would locate the img tag. I would pass in a class, and I would say rounded circle, and I'll save that. Now if I go back to the website, you see I have this. So let's toggle this to a mobile phone screen and see what we have. As you can see, I only have the nav section showing because that's the only section I have designed for my mobile phone screen. So let's design a banner section for our mobile display. And the way to do that is to come back here in our index.html file, and we are going to come beneath this, pass in a section with an ID of banner mobile. Let's call that banner mobile, and let's pass in a class, a display class that's going to allow this section to be displayed only on the mobile phone screen. Okay, this is supposed to be nav mobile actually. Let's grab this class and let's paste that there. So in our mobile section, we are going to have a container also, and the container is going to have a row, and each row is going to take 12 columns. We are going to use the whole 12 columns in each row. We are going to have 2 rows in this container. Let's scroll that up. So let's have a class of call 12. This means we are making use of the whole 12 columns. So let's have our h1 tag right there. Now our h1 tag is still going to have what we have up there. We are going to have this: welcome to Dawn's Fashion, we clothe you affordably. Now let's save that. Now beneath our h1 tag, we are going to have our p tag like we had up there. Now our p tag is going to take a class of mb4. We are going to create a margin bottom for that. Let's go up there, let's grab this, and let's paste it in between the opening and the closing p tag. Now let's save that. Let's see what we have. Now this is what we have displaying on our mobile phone screen. And the reason we don't have a background color anymore on our nav section is because we changed the name of the ID to nav mobile. So let's go to our CSS and let's create a nav mobile. Let's say nav mobile, and let's set a background color there to our color. Let's save that. Now let's go back. You see we have that coming up, and that's fine. So let's go back to styling our banner section for the mobile display. So we are going to come right here, create a banner mobile selector, and pass in a height for it, a height of 120 VH, a background color set to our color, which is this right there, and set a color property of white. Now let's go back to our mobile display. Let's see what we have. Now that's that. So let's continue building the HTML section for our banner. Now we have made use of one row inside the container. So let's create another row where we are going to have our image. So let's come outside the row. So we are going to create another row there. Remember, in Bootstrap, one container can carry more than one row. So let's create another row there. Let's say div class row. This has 12 columns now, and we are going to make use of the whole 12 columns to place our image. So let's say call 12. Now let's scroll down and let's pass in our image tag with an src attributes set to image first.png. Now let's pass in our class, the rounded circle class. Let's save that. Now this is what we have. Now we have an issue of padding for our h1 tag and our p tag, and we are going to resolve that by coming to our HTML file here. Let's scroll up. In our h1 tag, let's pass in the Bootstrap class, and the Bootstrap class is going to take a margin top of 5 rems and a margin bottom of 5 rems also. Now this looks better. We are going to work with this. When I click and I click, so let's go back to our desktop display and see what we have. Now let's create a section under this section, and that section is going to be the About Us section. And for us to do that, let's come over here to our index.html file. Beneath this section, let's create a new section and let's give it an ID of About section. Let's say About section, and let's pass in our class there, which is going to be dnon dsm block. Let's save that. And inside this section, we are going to create a container, and inside the container we are going to create a row. Inside the row, we are going to make use of 6 columns first, and inside that 6 columns we are going to pass in another image tag and use another image that we have in our image folder there. So, and that's going to be second.png, and let's see what we have. Okay, I think we should define a height for this section, and the way we are going to do that is to go to our index.css file, select the About section, let's give the About section a height of 100 VH, and let's save that. So when we come back to our website, this is what we have. So let's make this look better than it looks now, and to do that we are going to use a Bootstrap class in our image tag here, and that Bootstrap class is going to be a margin top class to 5 rem. So when we come here, we have this. So now let's use the other 6 columns on this side, and the way to do that is still inside the row, create a class there of call md6. Now inside that class, let's create a button that's going to say About Us. Beneath the button tag there, we are going to pass in the p tag. Now let's copy and paste what we have here. So let's paste what we have here, and let's copy this p tag and let's paste it again. So let's go back to our browser to see what we have. We have this. So let's style this. Let's come here in our button tag. Let's use a Bootstrap class my set to 5. My means applying the margin property for the top and for the bottom, just the regular graph XY concept. When I say mx, it means margin for the left and for the right applied simultaneously. When I say my, it means apply the margin for the top and for the bottom simultaneously. So let's go to our website to see what we have. You can see we have a margin applied at the top and at the bottom. So that's cool. Let's style our button to look better. So to style our button, we are going to head over to our index.css file and say About section. Okay, let's pass in the button selector there, About section. So let's set a width for our button, and let's set the width to 160 pixels. Let's set a height for our button to 80 pixels, and let's set a border to 2 pixels solid with this color right here. Now let's set a border radius to 8 pixels, and let's set a background color to white, and let's set a color property to our color right there. Now let's save this. Let's go back to our browser to see what we have. Let's reload this. We have this. I want this button to be more like a signage, not a call to action. I don't want anyone to click this button for them to go anywhere. I just want everyone to know this is the About Us section. So the way I'm going to do that is to make sure when I bring my mouse pointer over here, it's not active. And the way I'm going to do that is by coming over here in our index.css file, setting cursor to none. So when I save that and I come back to our website and I reload the page, you see when I move my mouse there, the mouse disappears. So I have one last concept for this section, and that's me placing a bar here to make this section look a bit colorful. And I'm going to do that by coming to our index.html file, still right inside this call MD6 class right there, but outside the p tag. I'm going to create a div and I'm going to give it a class of line. Now when I go back to my index.css file, I can just call that, I can say line. Now the line class is going to take a width of 100%, a background color set to the color we have been using. You need to stay consistent with your primary colors that you selected. And I'm going to set a height property for this, and I'm going to say 60px, and I'm going to set a margin top property for this also, set that to 60px. Now when I save that and I go back to our website, you see I have this. Now this makes this section to look more colorful than it was. Now that's that for this section. Now let's go ahead to create a mobile display for this section. When I toggle this page, you'd see we have this and it stops here, and that's because we don't have a mobile display for the new section that we created. So I'm going to do that the way we have been implementing the rest, by coming to our index.html file here, creating a new section with an ID of about mobile and a class set to dblock, dsm, and none. I'm going to close that tag right there. Now in this section, I'm going to create a container, and I'm going to create a row, and I'm going to use all of the 12 columns in this row, like so. So inside this column here, I'm going to pass in the img tag, set the src attribute to second.png. I'm going to pass in a class in the image tag, and this class is going to set a margin top to 5 rems and a margin left to 5 rems. Now when I save that and I go back to my browser and I toggle this to a mobile display, you would see I have this, and this looks better. So let's create another row to display the rest of the page. So let's come here, and I've used up all the 12 columns in this row, which means I'm going to create another row, and I'm going to use all of the 12 columns in that row, and I'm going to paste this. Let me come here and let me copy this. So let's go back to our website to see what we have. Okay, something is missing in this section, and that's the About Us button. So let's come back right here before the p tag. Let's pass in our button tag right there, and let's say About Us like we said before. Now let's pass in a class right there in the button tag. Let's say my5. Now this means margin for the top and for the bottom set to 5 rems. So when we go back, you'd see we have this. This looks better. So we haven't set a height property for our About Mobile section. So we are going to do that ASAP by coming here in our index.css file and saying About Mobile. Now let's set a height of 150 VH for this. Now let's go back to our page, and you see we have this. You can zoom this to 100% for you to see clearly. So this looks better. This is how our website will be displayed on a mobile phone screen. So let's go ahead to style the button tag, and we are going to come here in our CSS file. We are going to say About Mobile button, and in the button tag there we are going to pass in a property, a width property of 160px we're going to pass in a height property of 80px. We are going to pass in the background color property set to our regular color. We are going to pass in the color property of white. And finally, I think let's still take away the cursor right there by setting the cursor property to none. So when we come back here, we have this about us. So that's that for this section. Currently, we have built 3 sections: the navigation section, the banner section, and the about us section, and we have implemented mobile displays for these 3 sections. So let's create our last section, which will be the contact us section. So this is what we have on our desktop display. So let's create another section beneath this section here, which will be the contact us section. So to do that, we'll come here in our index.html file. Beneath this section here, let's create an ID and let's say contact, and let's pass in our class there to hide this from a mobile display. So let's say dnone dsm block, and let's create a container now, and let's create a row. Let's create a div right there, set call md to 6, and let's pass in a h1 tag that says contact us. Now let's save that. So let's create the second call md6, and inside here we are going to pass in a contact us form call md6, still inside this row. So let's pass in a h1 there that says contact form, and beneath the h1 we are going to pass in a form tag. So inside our form tag, we'll have our first input tag with a type attribute set to text, name set to name, and placeholder set to name, id set to name. And we are going to pass in 2 Bootstrap classes. One is form group and the other is form control. So let's copy this input tag and let's paste the input tag here. Let's create another input tag. So this is going to be for email. So let's set the name here to email, the placeholder set to email, the ID set to email, and the Bootstrap classes will remain the same. The next tag in our form will be the text area, because we want the users to send us a message. So we are going to say enter message, ID set to message, name set to message, and finally we are going to pass in our form classes there, form group and form control. So that's that. So finally, let's create a button tag that's going to say submit, and let's view this in our browser to see what we have. You see we have this right there. So the next thing we are going to do is to come right here in our index.css file, and let's style our contact. Let's set a height for it. Let's set a height of 100 VH and a background color of our regular color, and let's set a color of white. Let's save that. Now let's go to our website to see what we have. So we have this. We have an error right here, and that's because the text area tag is not a self-closing tag. It's an opening and closing tag. It has an opening tag and a closing tag. So when we come back here and we reload our page, you see we have this. Now the next thing to do is to apply margin on our h1 tags here, which is contact us and contact form. So let's go to our CSS file and let's say contact, let's select the ID of contact and let's say H1. So let's set a margin top property of 120 pixels. Let's save that. And that looks better. So let's go ahead to style the input tags in our form here. So to do that, let's say contact, then we pass in the form tag and we say input, because the input tags are children tags inside the form tag. So let's set the width to 70% and let's set the padding to 10px. Let's set the border radius to 6px and let's set the margin to a top of 12px, the right set to 0, the bottom set to 12 pixels and the left set to 0. And let's finally set our border property to none. Let's save that. So when we come here, you see we have this. So the next thing we are going to do is style the text area, because we need to have this to stay on the same line as all of this here. So we are going to say, let's copy this, contact and form. Let's change this to text area. So in the text area, we are going to have padding set to 10 pixels. That's correct. So let's say margin. There is no need for the margin top. Let's say margin 12 pixels for the top, and that's all. So let's set this to margin top, and don't forget the semicolons there. So let's go back to see what we have. We have this. So finally, for our contact form, we are going to style the button tag, and the way to do that is to say contact, you say form, and you say button. So let's look for a button style here and use that. So let's take all of this and let's style our button tag. Let's copy and paste that. So let's go back to the browser to see what we have. Okay, I need the pointer to be active and I need the background color. Okay, the background color can be white. Actually, the pointer is active. So let's come here and let's reduce the height to 60 pixels and let's reduce this to 140 pixels. So this looks better. So with these, we have successfully created a contact section for our website. You can do better than this. You can create a footer section right here. You can place your address here. You can just make this look like the conventional website you have been seeing. So when you do that, don't forget to tag me on Twitter. My handle is at Joe_Brendan_. Tag me, send a screenshot so I see what you have done. So let's proceed to create a mobile display for this section. As you can see, when I toggle my website, I have all of this, but there's no contact section because it's not been designed for the mobile display yet. So let's go ahead to do that. Now let's close this and let's go back to our VS Code. And the way to do that is to come here beneath this section here and let's copy this. We are going to format this code. Let's copy this and let's paste that. So here we are going to say contact mobile, change the ID name to contact mobile, and the display class there will be changed to dblock dsm none. And let's save that. So over here we don't want this, we don't want that. So we want this to be called 12. We want to make use of all the 12 columns for our form. So that's that basically for this section. So if we go to our browser now and we toggle our page to a mobile display, you see we have this contact form. And this is not showing because we have not yet set a property for our contact mobile section. So let's go back to CSS and let's do that. Let's say contact mobile and let's set a height of 50 VH. Let's save that. Let's take this to 75%. As you can see, this is what we have. The only thing left for us here to style is the submit button, and to do that is very easy. Let's go back to our CSS file and let's say contact. Let's select the contact mobile ID, and let's pass in the button selector there to select our button tag, and let's copy all we have here. As simple as that. Let's paste this. So the width is okay, the height is okay, but I would set the border property to none. So I would say border set to none, and I'll set a background color to our regular color, and I'll set a color attribute to white. Let's go back to our browser to see what we have. This looks better. If you noticed, let me close this. On our mobile display, we don't have this. We don't have this bar. So I'm going to come over here in my index.html file, and I'll go to the about mobile section, and after the p tag here, I'm going to throw in that div with the class of line, and I'm going to save that. Now when I go back to my browser and I reload and I inspect to toggle, you'd see I have this. So this looks better. So currently we have our website looking awesome when it's displayed on the mobile phone screen or when it is displayed on a laptop screen. So that's how you should always design your website. Always think mobile first, because most users view most websites from their mobile phones. So that's that for this video. So for now, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to share.